following night is 5:31. Mincha will be at 5:40. Please remember that next week, Monday, we are starting at 6, and Tuesday, Purim, we're starting at 5:45. And hopefully we'll be done by 7 o'clock. Anyway, now for a quick Devar Torah. As you have mentioned, Tuesday is Purim. Megillat Esther is one of the unique things about it. All the action takes place outside of Eretz Israel. But it's also a lesson for the Jews living in the diaspora, the Galut, about the type of governments they will have to be dealing with. Remember, Achashverosh is never accepted as a true king. You get this from the language. It doesn't say Achashverosh HaMelech, it says HaMelech Achashverosh, which in Hebrew, in English it doesn't seem to matter, but in Hebrew it makes a big difference. When the pronoun comes after the name, it means that person is there by right. When it comes before, he happens to be the king. How he got there, we don't know, we don't care. Achashverosh is the nicest thing you can say about him is that he's an incompetent drunk who's
we know about that.
Who is also extremely corrupt. He doesn't hate the Jews, he just doesn't, as long as you pay him off, he's happy. Haman, on the other hand, has an ideological beef with the Jews because he realizes, and remember, Haman is descended from Amalek. He realizes that the Jews will stand up against him because they have this thing called the Torah. That the Jews are going to stand up for what's right. And he uses his position to bribe Achashverosh to be able to murder the Jews. This is basically the story of the Galut, of the diaspora, if you will. I once knew the chief rabbi of Argentina under Juan Perón. He realized how corrupt and venal Juan Perón was. He would go in, he would praise Evita, not because he thought Evita was a good woman. He thought she was a disgusting creature. But he also knew his job was to protect the Jews, that was his primary goal. So because he would go in and say, oh, Evita's the greatest woman around, etc., he could then convince Perón that the Jews can close their factories on Shabbat. Because Juan Perón actually wanted to pass a law that you had to work on Shabbat. So in other words, he would praise Achashverosh he would praise Juan Perón not because he liked him, he actually found him disgusting, but because he realized my main job is to protect the Jews, to protect Jewish interests. So sometimes when you're in that position, you have to make little compromises to get the big job done. And by the way, when Juan Perón died, Rabbi Amram Lum, who was chief rabbi of Argentina, went to the funeral with his bags packed because he knew right away, I better get out of here. And he moved to Cleveland. But the important thing of this, what I'm saying is, we're in the Galut. We have to realize that no matter how nice the leadership happens to be right now, we have to be aware there are elements who really want to get rid of us, and they will use their positions to convince the corrupt venal leader, and they will bribe him to pass laws that would be anti-Jewish. So we have to really be careful, not so much of the evil ones, we know who they are, but of the people who are corruptible. Something to think about as we get ready to read Megillat Esther. Kadosh Rabbanim.